These were the characters who stood tall and proud outside the entrance to the Royal Victoria Hall in 1900. Smart clothes and smart moustaches. The ornate ironwork on the hall's front entrance survived for many decades. Acker Bilk, the world-famous jazzman, was apparently appearing on stage in this photo from 1977. The hall was then a flourishing focal point for Southborough. But 40 years later, this is Cllr Peter Oakford declaring to the Planning Committee in Tunbridge Wells that the Royal Victoria Hall was no longer viable and needed to be demolished. The latest local plan states that opportunities shall be explored to retain and improve the hall. But Cllr Oakford told planning officers that refurbishment just wasn't feasible. The official document sent by developers to the Planning Committee stated that hall maintenance costs had been rising, along with, it said explicitly, drains and walls collapsing. Afterwards, I pressed Cllr Peter Oakford for the details.
Anything could be done, but when it was looked at, when you start renovating a building, you have to building it up to new building standards, as I'm sure you're aware. And what that would have meant is that you'd have been left with the four walls and absolutely nothing else.
But in the planning documents, it said that the walls of the hall were falling down, and some people questioned that. What wall was actually falling down?
No, it's not all the walls that are falling down. There is one wall at the back that is bowed under the pressure.
Is that the actual hall or the extension?
No, that's of the hall.
A very different view comes from the former Southborough Mayor, Cllr Nick Blackwell, who heads the Labour group. Cllr Oakford told me that one of the walls of the hall was bowed, and he said that was one of the actual walls of the Victoria Hall. Is that correct?
That's not correct. That wall is part of a garage that's at the back of the property, but it's set apart from the Victoria Hall.
So the wall that he was talking about, the bowed wall, which he told me was a reason to demolish the hall because it's not straight anymore, you're saying that he's wrong?
I can categorically say that is wrong. You know, for a building that is over 100 years old, it's survived remarkably well. It's a really good quality build. It's fit for purpose. It's weathertight. It hasn't got any structural issues. It just seems a much better idea to work with an existing asset rather than to demolish it and start again.
Back at the end of the 19th century, British design came up with solid brick walls and this detailed craftsmanship. The 70s makeover of the front left us with this. The next step is set to be a building with polycarbonate plastic cladding, of the type used for this new ballet school in Deptford. Cllr Oakford, who originally negotiated the hub scheme, is seen here sitting next to fellow Conservative Councillor Glenn Lester, who now represents Southborough's interest in the new development. It seems these two characters are now the only people in Southborough who can stop the Royal Victoria Hall being reduced to a pile of rubble in the coming weeks. There is continued vocal opposition, but Councillors Oakford and Lester insist this new replacement hub building is something the town will be proud of in the 21st century.